You folks have a copy of the program? Mm-hmm. Carol, do you have a copy of the program?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I guess we're going to start. Let me just get out my little crib sheet here. I'm reminded when we get to this point in being organized, hopefully, of Ronnie Reagan, who, having done a few years in Hollywood, when he was in the White House, or even after he was no longer in the White House, if somebody was doing some video that he was supposed to be in, he would say, "Show me my markers," meaning where is he going to stand? So then, and you know, once he saw those, he was ready to go. In my case, I got to see some documents in front of me here, otherwise I don't know what the hell is going on. Can't remember.
My name is Linda Lubinsky. Most of you know who I am. And I'm the coordinator for the Center for Global Responsibility. And Bob is president. I've been with the Center for Global Responsibility now 5.5 years. Bob, would you like to?
Okay, let me look at my markers. I've got them on a sheet here. See in handwriting, which I can't read.
You want to tell the people about the history of the center, about global responsibility.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can do that. Well, all right, I'll stand up. The Center for Global Responsibility was incorporated here in New Jersey as a not-for-profit July 1 of 2009, which means it's almost to the 7-year mark, just a month and a half more or less short of 7 years. And that's why we use the title. What's our famous title for this event?
CGR at 7.
CGR at 7. You know, hey, we didn't come from Madison Avenue advertising and all that for nothing. And Hollywood too. So this is CGR at 7. Actually, CGR, Center for Global Responsibility, was initially named, but not incorporated under that name, Center for Globally Responsible Political Thought and Public Policy. And I had cards printed up to that effect when I did an around the world going east in the fall of 2008 on my way to teach in pro bono on my own nickel at the Bangladesh University in Dhaka, and then continued from there further west, further east. That's east. I'd done around the world, in case anybody is interested in such nonsense, some years before, namely in, thank you. I'd done around the world in some years before, namely, I worked for CARE, C-A-R-E, the Relief at Center outfit, first in Hong Kong and Macau as acting mission chief there, then in Sri Lanka, as it's called now, then called Ceylon, where I was sent to see how they were handling a feeding program there, because we were going to start up a big feeding program in the Philippines. UNICEF, an excellent outfit, had tried to have a feeding program there a couple years before we were opening ours, but they didn't know about what we were going to do, and neither did we. And it failed. They could not deal with problems of pilferage, corruption, this, that, and the other, so they closed down. So here was CARE starting up a similar program in which it was and did feed 1.5 million school kids every school day throughout the islands of the Philippines, all over. Luzon, the Sayan Islands, and then the big Mindanao further south. And so to try to see that we could do it without pilferage and having to close it down and everything, they sent me over there to see how things were done in Ceylon, and I came back, and then they brought me back in time for the presidential election. The famous Magsaysay, as president, had died in a plane crash, and his vice president, Garcia, was then president and running that fall for the presidency. So they figured, well, I better be back in the Philippines during the wrap-up of the presidential campaign of the voter, which I did. And shortly thereafter, we started up the program. We had a terrific outfit called Luzon Brokerage that knew everything about bringing we had to bring U.S. surplus wheat flour to make the buns for the breakfast for these kids, many of whom had no breakfast whatsoever before that. That would be mid-morning in public schools. This was with the public schools. And the milk that they would have with their mid-morning breakfast or lunch would be made from U.S. surplus milk powder. And Luzon Brokerage knew how to get that stuff off the ships coming in to the big the Manila harbor, and get it out to wherever it had to go. So they were great. How did we avoid, and this is the last I'll say about the CARE program there, how did we avoid the problem that UNICEF had? We tried to do everything in a very clear-cut and no-nonsense fashion. For that, we needed two folks traveling all over the Philippines, each with their own Jeep, but between the islands, the Jeeps don't work on the water, so the Jeeps would get on board a ship. We needed two people, intrepid people, that would go every goddamn school with no notice that they were going to show up. And they would know exactly how much milk powder and wheat flour should be still there, and how many days they've been feeding and everything. But they would no school would have the slightest idea when one of our two inspectors would turn up. One of them was a guy named Paul Arnaboldi, recent graduate then of the University of Florida. If there was ever a hippie, that was Arnaboldi, but that was just fine because he was intrepid. He would go any place, under any dangerous circumstances or anything else, as long as he could have his fun as a hippie when he was back in Manila. We needed another, and so we put the word out that we wanted to hire a Filipino to do that. So Josie turns up. She's about a 30-year-old Philippine woman. Everybody said, no, a woman cannot do this. Josie said, I can and I will. So we hired Josie, gave her a Jeep, and she went all over hell. And she was as good as Paul Arnaboldi. Did the job. Nobody knew when she was coming. And during the entire time I was there for about a year and a half after the school feeding program started out. I was at number 2. I was assistant mission head, and the head of the mission was a guy named Alan Klein, who had done a PhD, get this one, he'd done a PhD in literature at Columbia University. And then, not unlike some others wanting to make some bucks right away, he went to Madison Avenue and turned out the copy for, Ken Erickson and all those outfits. But he and his wife, she didn't have any stomach for that kind of thing. And they both said, all right, to hell with this. After a couple of years, went to CARE, and CARE said, sure, you'll be head of the Philippine mission. So he was a guy that dealt with the higher up leaders there, from president, cabinet ministers, secretary of education, all this stuff. And I was the guy that was supposed to make the program work, raise hell if necessary. So it did work, and when I left after a year and a half of the operation of the program, there was not one confirmed case of pilferage or anything else like that. Anyway, that was my first taste in Asia, and a great experience in all the circumstances in Asia, including surely the Philippines, where I worked. Okay, so how did this Center for Global Responsibility get set up? And what is it? What kind of an animal is this Center for Global Responsibility? Well, I had previously set up a non-governmental organization called International Public Policy Institute. And we got both Department of Public Information status at the United Nations, and a few years later, then very hard to get, ECOSOC, Economic and Social Council status as an NGO. That's still going on, but it has a younger group of board members and president. And so, for want of anything else to do, after I finished teaching at Seton Hall, I said, well, there's got to be another NGO. So as I said, first it was going to be called Center for Globally Responsible Political Thought and Public Policy. I had cards printed as I went on that eastbound around the world. Nobody complained about the cards, the length of the name, but by the time I got back, I said, no, that is too long. So then, after some thinking, came up with just Center for Global Responsibility, but with the same essential mission. And you will read more than you'll ever want to see at the website on the cards. I have a copy of the cards. Could you possibly see that everybody has a copy of the card? And yours too, isn't it? Your card? Okay, here's a bunch of these. And you're going to have a bunch of yours?
Yes.
Okay. So there are cards under the current name of the organization, which is holding today here, essentially its 7th year since being founded, July 1 of 2009. Linda has been involved for 5 years now, right? Back to what year did you come on board?
That was the fall of 2010.
Okay, and Linda, you know, her title is coordinator, but, you know, in some organizations they would call her chief cook and bottle washer, which means running the goddamn thing, knowing everything, even knowing where the bodies are and not buried over here and here. You know, every organization has some bodies that they hope are buried deep enough so nobody can find them. So far, we've not gone to prison. And as far as I know, the feds are not on our back. We do have a CPA that keeps our accounts and handles our tax stuff. And so far, we haven't asked anybody for a penny. But there's a little problem there. This thing was being financed out of my credit cards, about 6 American Express credit cards and about 3 other, you know, Visas and Master and all that stuff. I thought that would last forever. What's the problem? But darn it, about a few months ago, I was not able to pay the interest on these cards and make the monthly payments. And I suddenly realized that these credit cards are not money in the bank. They're something you got to pay back on. So that told me that, hey, maybe we have a 501c3, meaning that contributions are tax deductible, and maybe we should start using that 501c3. And so far, we still have not asked for a penny from anybody, and we're not going to ask a penny from anybody today. But we're going to do a mailing after today, in case anybody wants to make a tax-deductible contribution to CGR. And we have, by the way, with us Carol Forbes using an excellent camera it's a Canon that'll both do video with sound. It's got an external microphone on top of it. And it'll also do still shots, but right now she's in video mode. And when about Sophia maybe in a minute. When Sophia, the talented 8-year-old, with us here today, and her parents, I think you're going to address her parents.
That's a little later.
That's later, okay, all right, getting ahead. But anyway, when she's over there at the piano, playing piano and singing, and then singing a song that you'll see on the program. Does everybody have a copy of the program?
Yeah, we do, Bob.
Okay, can you see on the program? This is later in the program, but any harm to note that. Okay, but at the bottom of the first page of the program, it talks about introducing Sophia Sangiovanni. And at that time, Linda will also ask Sophia's parents to stand up and be recognized. And of course at that point, Carol is a professional at this stuff. She has a job teaching at a school where they hired her specifically for knowledge about video and all that stuff, because some of the parents at that school wanted their kids to learn that stuff. So she does that. Even during the icy days that the school is open, she has to skate up in some car, maybe on Honda Element, from West Orange, where she lives, up in the boondocks about 30 miles northwest of here to that school. But soon the school will be out for the summer, and she will not have to do that. Okay.
But do you want to say anything more about the center and the terminology about global responsibility?
Yeah, I'll say a little bit about that. Okay, so instead of being the Center for Global Responsible, the terminology globally responsible is something it took me a while to figure out. I had, during the 1980s, just about every year, the big deal annual meeting of the International Studies Association, held here, there, or any place in the U.S., one time in Puerto Rico, and in 1989 in London. And I would organize a panel called Global Level Political Thought. Well, it was a catchy title, and a lot of folks were interested in it. And that last one in London, UK, with Dee Dee Weinblatt as co-chair with me. She was with Babson College in Massachusetts. Amazing the people that showed up for that one. Quite well-known, even famous professor at the University of Pennsylvania, Department of Political Science, and somebody very well-known from Africa, and more like that. A guy from, key figure from Poland, and various others. So nobody said that the terminology global level political thought was so good, but I couldn't make it work. When I tried to get ready to publish some stuff on it, it just wouldn't work for me. I just run into a stone wall. So, is Gina here now?
Yes, Gina's out.
Well, Gina should be here by now.
Okay.
Okay, ask her to come on in. She could leave a note out there to ask people to turn left and come into the church.
Linda.
What's that?
Here's Jean.
Gina's coming?
She's right here.
Gina's here.
Hi.
Okay. How long have you been sitting there?
She just came in.
Just now.
Come on, Bob.
Okay. So I want to introduce my daughter, Gina. Gina just came up from Philadelphia, where she's working for the Democratic National Committee, part of a group that are organizing the Democratic National Convention in Philadelphia, where it's claimed by Hillary that she will be nominated. Bernie has a few other ideas about that, but anyway, somebody's going to be nominated there, and that won't be Donald Trump. So she's working on that, as she did 4 years ago for the Democratic Nomination Convention in Charlotte, North Carolina. Gina's an urban type woman, and so she regarded Charlotte, NC, even though it's the headquarters of the Bank of America and a few things like that, as just boondocks, nowhere. She thinks Philadelphia is okay. It's not nowhere. Although, as you recall, when Ronnie Reagan was shot as he came out of the Washington Hilton Hotel, with no proper security setup, they now have quite a different setup there. When he was shot by Hinckley, and taken to the George Washington emergency room, hospital emergency room, and as he was being brought in there, one of the nurses said to him, "Mr. President, how are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I'd rather be in Philadelphia," which is an old vaudeville statement about such a boring place that nobody who really is in show business want to be in. So Reagan, I didn't vote for him either time. Not a big fan of his, but I give him damn good credit for being shot up, not knowing whether he's going to die right away or not, and coming up with that good, tried and true vaudeville statement. Anyway, I couldn't make it work under the terms that I was trying to use. I went to Gina's place. My daughter Gina, where now? Here. Where is she? She went back there? All right. Anyway, she was here. And, I'm trying to introduce you. You need to keep coming and going. Do you think that people are flocking to come in there? And we're charging $50 just to come into the church. And I know you don't want to miss anybody, but there won't be anybody. It's now, you can relax. You can relax. It's now 4:45. So please stay here. Anyway, Gina knows something about events management. That is her profession. Most recently in San Francisco for their big annual HIV/AIDS. That's the whole Bay Area fundraiser. And did it for the National Education Association in Washington when Bill Clinton was the main speaker. And anyway, she's been around. She knows this area. And now she's helping her totally disorganized dad, who is only able to maybe put on things like that because of the help of Linda. And some others here. Dale Schuster is on our board of advisors. Who else is here? Who's on our board?
Peter.
Okay, where is Peter? Okay. Peter has a pretty interesting background. Peter, could you just stand up for a second so people see him? Okay. Peter is from Poland, and before he came over here, he became part of a program for learning Hebrew, and he learned Hebrew. Then he came over here to be a part of the master's degree program at Seton Hall University, the first and only one in the world on Judeo-Christian studies. The head of which is, whether he usually has the title, but whether he does or not, is Father Larry or Lawrence Frizzell, who's originally from Canada. Maybe that part of Canada is now undergoing a hell of a fire. Father Frizzell is, if anybody on that campus or within 50 miles is a saint, so far not declared saint, that would be Lawrence Frizzell. Would you agree with that, Peter?
Absolutely.
So Peter came over here to be part of that program, and now has a degree from the program. I believe he finished, and he's on our board of advisors.
Timur Davis.
Yeah, where's Timur? I don't have I've got my glasses in my pocket. I think I'm going to put them on. Okay, 1 sec. I don't need them much for reading or anything, but Timur Davis standing up. Who is Timur Davis of our board of advisors? He is one of the few people in the U.S. and maybe in the world who had the responsibility for reopening an historic library designed by Sanford White of the famous Kim White and so on. That building, that's your daughter with you, right?
Yes, Grace.
Okay, there's Gracie. How old is Gracie now?
6.
6. And now in kindergarten? Kindergarten or first year? And pretty good artist. Timur knows a little bit about artwork, and he and Gracie do a lot of artwork together, and she's turning out good stuff already. Anyway, Timur has the MLS, you've got to have it, Master of Library Science, from the oldest still operating school of library science in the United States, namely Pratt Institute in Brooklyn. Columbia had an older program, but they closed it down, what, about 10 years ago when they closed it, or 20? About when?
15.
About 16 years ago, yeah, no more. So Pratt, well known in many fields. I've been on the Pratt campus and known other people who went there. He's a graduate there. He's worked in, he turned the situation around at the Maplewood Library when the kids were coming in after school and didn't realize that it should be a little quiet there and so on. And the Star Ledger wrote about it that they might have to close down that Maplewood Library. They got smart and hired Timur to come there. And in about one day, everything was okay. The kids realized, well, this, you can go outside and say what you want, and inside you can talk in a whisper and things like that. But when it came to reopening this Orange Library in the city of Orange, not far from here, it wasn't an easy situation. It'd been closed for about 8 months. It was already, that famous New Jersey Governor Christie, loved by everyone in the state, of whatever political party. When he came, doing a pre-election visit or something to Orange, he'd been briefed and he knew that the library was closed there. And so he said to the mayor, Mayor Warren, who is right now running for re-election, said, when are you going to open this thing? And Mayor Warren didn't have a very convincing answer to that. But that was a little bit of a spur underneath his saddle to get going. And so they reached out to Timur Davis to reopen it 2 years ago, January 3 of 2 years ago. Is that about right? So it's now 2 years and 3/4 months ago. In the United States, she came and spoke there. Linda and I were there, and Congressman Donald Payne, the son of Donald Payne, unfortunately deceased a few years ago, when I said to him, or maybe in sort of a public statement, said that she was the most progressive congressperson in the United States, he corrected me and he said, the most aggressive or whatever, but they're really not effective. So he corrected me on that, and it was a good piece of correction. Linda and I went up not long after the library was reopened. They had a jazz event there, and had a terrific five-piece jazz group of some notes. These were notable figures in jazz right there. In a sort of a, not large, but sloping auditorium-like room they had. So anyway, that's Seymour Davis, and we could go on about each and every one of our members of the Board of Advisors. Well, actually, our two honorees here who are here today are members of our Board of Advisors. That would be Maria Ricardo and to her left, Russell Benali. They're both on our Board of Advisors. One of the most long-term and very effective and hard-working and everything Board of Advisors members is right here. That's Dale Schuster, who he doesn't mind my half joking around. He's from a family with an upstate dairy farm, and I had that experience myself. A whole bunch of cows by hand. I think you guys had surge milkers or something, didn't you? But machines,
okay,
yeah.
I don't have them.
Some of their friends love that word.
It's okay, you can move on.
All right. Anyway, so he went to the famous Cornell School of Agriculture and Life Sciences, graduated there, and then went to Lexington, Kentucky, at the University of Kentucky, doing a PhD in animal health. And then now he's working, in fact, what's his title there? Linda, Executive Director with an outfit that makes mostly pharmaceutical products for human use. Well, of course, a guy that knows the stuff in animal health and pretty damn smart can, with a little retuning inside his cabeza, he can handle human health matters. So he's with us today. So anyway, have we overlooked somebody? Well, maybe I mentioned, I did mention about Carol Forbes, who was operating the camera, and no harm in mentioning that her mother, Tamar Forbes, a registered nurse, and she's very active in this church, and she and another person who's a member of the church are both the church designees for health issues and so on.
I thought maybe I should mention the other Board of Advisors.
Yeah,
Or
when you go ahead.
These are the other members of the Center for Global Responsibility's Board of Advisors. They include Ernest Aka, student at Seton Hall University, and CGR Board of Advisors member for the past 3 years. Faye Austin is heavily involved with the Central New Jersey chapter of the United Nations Association, which she founded. And then there's Janelle Baptiste, who received the JD degree from Rutgers County Law School several years ago. Her interests and experience include the field of international law as well as juvenile rights.
And it's notable that her mother and father are from different islands in the Caribbean. Her mother from Barbados, her father from St. Vincent. And they live way the hell out in Monroe, New York, which is in the Catskills. And her mother goes into New York every day working for the famous Teachers Union. She's not doing something skullduggery, which in my opinion is being done by some people in that union. May defending the undefendable, teachers who are not competent. She's not doing that. Anyway, that's her mother, and her father is from St. Vincent, worked for the city of New York for many years and retired from there, but he's such an incredible craftsman that he more or less built the beautiful house they have in Monroe, New York, looking down on the building.
And now, some more of our Board of Advisors members, actually, two of our Board of Advisors members are also on the Board of Directors. The Board of Advisors is not a legal board, but the Board of Directors is. And Bob is part of the Board of Directors, and then there's also Raymond M. Brown and Wanda Aiken Brown.
Raymond M., the son of the famous Raymond A. Brown, the most famous ever criminal defense attorney in the state of New Jersey.
Yes, and Raymond M. Brown is a member of the New Jersey and New York bars. He has significant international experience, qualifying as counsel before the International Criminal Court in The Hague, and having served as co-lead defense counsel at the Special Court for Sierra Leone. Wanda Aiken.
They went over and Wanda went over to Sierra Leone and served without pay or travel money or anything as defense counsel, because as we all know, that you might be guilty of the worst kind of crimes, but you are entitled to a smart and vigorous defense, and that's what they went over there to do.
Yes, and Wanda Aiken Brown, who's the wife of Raymond M. Brown, is also a lawyer and co-founder, together with him, of the International Justice Project. Tara Burns, as of this year, is judicial extern with the Honorable Christopher C. Connor, Chief Judge at U.S. District Court, Middle District of Pennsylvania. Crystal Langford is founder and director of The Gifted Mind, a program focusing on cognitive development of students ages 8 to 12 years old. She is also a counselor at St. Joseph's Regional Medical Center. Brian Canaris, an associate of Crystal Langford in the Gifted Mind Project, is a member of CGR's Board of Advisors. Florence Dennis, who last year earned her master's degree in international education policy from Harvard University's School of Education, is founder of the World Class Education Initiative, Incorporated. That's a nonprofit based in the Bronx.
Her parentage, again, is dual nationalities. Her mother, I believe it is from Liberia. Her father is from Ghana. And she lived in those countries until she came over here at about the age to go into her junior year in high school, finished up public high school in the Bronx, and an advisor there said, why don't you study at the Bennett Women's College in North Carolina, an historically African-American college. So she did, and up comes from the women's school and part of the Atlanta University Center, Spelman, yeah. So up comes from having been president of Spelman College, a very successful one. Comes a rather famous anthropologist, female. Having done a very job there, she comes to the lesser-known Bennett College. And what did she do there? Well, one thing she did is get money so that any student who wanted to visit other historically African-American colleges and universities could do it any weekend they wanted to. And Florence took advantage of that, went to many of those visits. Also, that president, Janetta Cole by name, brought Bill Clinton to campus to speak and to energize the students about how they could have leadership roles and should have leadership roles. And also Oprah Winfrey, she came. So that's the kind of educational background that Florence she served as executive director of this organization for a couple of years while she was in the master's program in the School of Diplomacy and International Relations at Seton Hall. And then she founded a project nobody ever thought it could get off the ground, where people donated books. And she eventually got a container load, a big shipping container load of those, got free shipping somehow across the Atlantic. And she went over there herself and set up libraries where they did not exist in some villages in Ghana and Liberia.
There was a collection right here in this church.
That's true. The people brought in a lot of books for that collection here. And anyway, not surprisingly, Harvard School of Education, usually ranked #1 in the U.S., was very glad to have her come there, and now she's completed the master's degree there.
Another two members of our board of advisors who are very active in a lot of the center's activities are Professor Aaron Hale and Professor Fredline McCormick Hale. Professor Aaron Hale teaches regularly at the School of Diplomacy and International Relations, Seton Hall University. He has served as a professor at St. Lawrence University. Professor Fredline McCormick Hale, spouse of Aaron Hale, is Associate Professor, School of Diplomacy and International Relations, Seton Hall University. She was a Fulbright Scholar, Foreign Aid College, University of Sierra Leone. John Hammock is...
Let me just say that Fredline did get a Fulbright to teach in Sierra Leone, which is where she's from. And about the time she got there, Ebola hit there. And so she was the first lecturer in the lecture series this church started. And so right in this very room, she gave quite an excellent presentation on how Ebola affected health there, political matters, public administration matters, and so forth. She went over there with her husband, who maybe I shouldn't mention, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it, who looks, in terms of skin color, sort of like myself. And Fredline is from Sierra Leone, so you could guess that her skin color is not quite as light as mine. When I talked to Erin, when she gave a presentation at a previous event of the center, he said that he loved it over there, that they met at the University of Florida, which has a very strong African Studies program, and they both did PhDs in political science there with an African Studies focus. She was able to finish her doctorate, which dealt with Sierra Leone, a year before he did. His dissertation, get this, was out in the boondocks of, then it would be going east, I guess, from Kinshasa, where Maria was, out toward, eventually you get to the two countries that sometimes have a lot of fighting. Rwanda, of course, terrible genocide there, and the other one is, what's one? No. Okay, anyway, his research was there for about a year, and anybody that survived going all over the place in that part of the Democratic Republic of Congo has beat the law of averages to come out alive and whole, which he did. But he told me that the year that they'd spent in Sierra Leone, he loved it so much that he was just hoping they and their now 4 children would be back there. She was teaching at the very historic Flora Bay College, oldest higher education Africa, maybe in all of sub-Saharan Africa. It's part of the University of Sierra Leone.
Another one of our Board of Advisors and members is John Halleck, who is now completing his writing for the Center for Global Responsibility's inaugural issue of GR Reports. Ambassador S. Asman Hassan served as Pakistan's ambassador first to Malaysia, then to Syria, and finally to Morocco. He was a professor at Seton Hall University School of Diplomacy and International Relations, as well as the well-known Lahore University of Management Sciences, LUMS, in Pakistan. John Jones is Chief of Staff at the Washington, D.C. office of U.S. Congressman Emanuel Cleaver of Kansas City, Missouri.
And he has his master's from the School of Diplomacy and International Relations. He's a Jersey guy. He grew up in Piscataway.
John Kashika was an adjunct professor at the School of Diplomacy and International Relations, Seton Hall University, and is now a professor at the State University of New York at Rockport. He has published numerous important scholarly works. Dr. Tirupalli Krishnakant is a professor of political science at Kakatiya University, Warangal, India, where he also served as chairperson of the Department of Political Science. He participated in the Congress of the International Political Science Association, IPSA, July 2009, Santiago, Chile, where he delivered a paper on overcoming poverty in India prepared by his wife, Kadarla Lalitha Kumari, also a political scientist, and also a member of CGR's Board of Advisors. Atani Obama, originally from Cameroon, graduated with a JD degree from New York Law School in May 2011. Madison McHugh from Southern New Jersey is a student at Seton Hall University's School of Diplomacy and International Relations. Teresa O'Donnell is a lawyer for the Crown in Winnipeg, Manitoba, specializing in matters regarding Indigenous people, known in Canada as First Nation.
She was one of the first students in the School of Diplomacy and International Relations at Seton Hall. She was a nurse with a degree from the University of Manitoba, which is where she's from. But then she came to the U.S. and she was a nurse at every top university you can think of in the United States, and she had better credentials than any of the nurses at these major hospitals, Johns Hopkins Hospital, Mass General in Boston, you name it. But she decided, after spending a little time in the Middle East, in the Gulf States area, when she saw how and talked to people working there, the so-called guest workers from other countries that were doing the construction and everything there, found that their passports were taken away from them the minute they got there, that if they lost one day of sickness, they'd be thrown out of the country and packed off to wherever they came from. So, after seeing that, she said, this is ridiculous. So then she was the only person from the Western Hemisphere to participate in a program in Sri Lanka about the terrible fate of guest workers from the Philippines or from here, there, and everywhere in these Gulf countries. And she then went to the chambers of a lawyer from Jordan who did a lot of work in that field and had apparently enough money so they could mostly do this pro bono work for these guest workers. Then she went to the International Labor Organization headquarters in Geneva and worked a couple months there, learning what they were doing. That's a terrific outfit about this matter. But then she said, I'm going to have to become a lawyer. That is the only way that I can have real impact in dealing with this damn mess. So first she spent a year at the University of Michigan, at Michigan State University Law School. But her mother back in Manitoba was very ill, so she took a leave of absence there. And she did some incredible work while taking care of her mother, and did take a couple of courses at the University of Manitoba Law School. Very hard to get into those Canadian law schools. But she did so well in those courses that they said, yeah, we'd be glad to have you as a full-time student. So she finished up there with a degree. And in Canada, you do articling. You don't have to worry about a bar exam. You've got to work for some well-known governmental agency or private firm. She was chosen to get the top articling position that year, working with the quote Crown, meaning the federal government of Canada, which is headquartered, of course, in Ottawa, Canada. But there in Manitoba, they had the presence of the Crown, and she worked for a year during articling with them. They were so taken with her energy, her capability, and everything else. They said, we've got to have you on a permanent basis. They didn't have money right then, but within a few months they did have money, and she got that job. And now, you know, we here in the U.S. will remember, I hope, the terrible tragedies inflicted on Native Americans here. Same in Canada. And they have a program for trying to provide some recompense to the Native people called First People, or Inuit, of which Manitoba has a whole bunch further up north. And her job has been now for a year moderating at hearings of people that have been badly wounded in this system, although that system no longer exists. But that they think when they come in to see her that she's going to be there, this stern person saying, well, damn it, you want $10,000, we'll give you $100. Not at all. She doesn't sit at the head of the table. When they come in, she recommends that they sit at the head of the table per individual. These are individual hearings. And then she hears their story about what happened to them. And you can believe that her recommendation for recompense is not 10 cents on the dollar. That's what she's doing.
Okay, so we're running a little bit behind schedule, so I'm going to try to get through the rest of this list and then we'll go on to the performance. Siva Pathmanathan is a certified public accountant. Sharon Perlmutter is a new member of CGR's Board of Advisors. She is in her junior year at Livingston High School in Livingston, special recognition to Maria Ricardo, wife of Russell Benally, who is co-honoree here today, is a stellar example of a person who has put her talents, education, and life experiences to use in a globally responsible manner, both in her career as well as in her personal life, including helping Russell and raising their children and being excellent role models for them. Marie is currently a professional engagement manager with Merck Company, Merck & Company, Incorporated, the New Jersey-based world-renowned pharmaceutical company. She also served in the field as a Merck community liaison, which included interfacing with healthcare and social service providers and AIDS service organizations and other community-based organizations. Even prior to joining Merck, Maria dedicated her time and effort toward promoting the health and well-being of our human family by being a public health educator and community organizer. Maria served as the first leader of the East Harlem Care Network, a community organizing initiative funded through the USA federal government's Ryan White Care Act to help address the AIDS epidemic. The network is a collaborative of community-based organizations, private voluntary organizations, non-governmental organizations, and state and municipal organizations serving the East Harlem community. The East Harlem Care Network advocates for patient empowerment, treatment, education, health promotion, and disease prevention. Before running the East Harlem Care Network, Ms. Ricardo directed the Perinatal HIV Transmission Prevention Demonstration Project, a research and health education program conducted at Brooklyn's Woodhull Medical and Health Center of Health and Hospitals Corporation. The project was funded by the Centers for Disease Control, CDC. There is yet another aspect of Maria's years of dedication to HIV/AIDS prevention and treatment. Namely, under the auspices of the AIDS Research Unit of the New York City Department of Health, she helped implement another CDC research project, investigating sexually transmitted diseases, knowledge, attitudes, beliefs, and behaviors of women of childbearing age. Maria's mother, Pearl Gonzalez Cambando, nee Mamie Pearl Mack, always felt her daughters should be citizens of the world and insisted on Maria and her younger sister, Patricia, having a broad global education. Thusly, Maria has been an international traveler since childhood and is trilingual, fluent in English, Spanish, and French. Maria and her sister lived for 3 years with cousins in the Bahamas, with a host family for a year in Lima, Peru, and attended boarding school in England for 2 years. They finished their high school education in Kinshasa, the capital of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where their mother was engaged in social improvement activities. No doubt an inspiration for Maria, who followed in her mother's globally responsible footsteps. Maria's job at Merck has taken her to Durban, South Africa, Sao Paulo, Brazil, Beijing, China, Hong Kong, Kampala, Uganda, and various other areas in Europe, as well as in the United States and Canada, to name just a few places, for important conferences on different disease and treatment areas. Maria began her working career in earnest as a program assistant, supporting a development planning organization, managing projects in Africa, Latin America, Asia, and the USA. Maria received a top-notch education in the field of public health at the School of Public Health of the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill, where she earned the Master of Public Health degree. Maria was awarded her BA in psychology from Hunter College of the City University of New York. Maria's intellectual drive and capabilities, combined with her high level of competence and aptitude for team building, have led her church, this church, First Presbyterian and Trinity in South Orange, New Jersey, to ask her to serve as president, a position she currently holds. She is an invaluable member, as well as co-chair of that body's Church and Society Committee. The Church and Society Committee has responsibility for bringing to the congregation's attention key aspects of peace and justice concerns, especially with regard to vulnerable members of society, such as immigrant detainees. Maria continues to be active in the community and a part of various entities, holding membership in the American Public Health Association. Maria has been a part of the La Leche League of New York, an organization that promotes breastfeeding. She also sat on the board of the Childbirth Education Association of Metropolitan New York, as well as the board of Change A Life Uganda. Maria, the Center for Global Responsibility is honored to recognize your important work in the field of public health, including that in the area of HIV/AIDS education, as well as all the tireless hours invested by you in pursuing a more just and equitable society for the local to global communities.
Thank you very much. I'm very honored to have this, to be honored here today. And I feel a little strange. I sort of feel like maybe Obama when they gave him the Nobel Peace Award. I'm not so sure. I think I really would rather accept this award and honor my mother, who really is the person I think who made me, who because of where she sent me and my sister to grow up and felt that we needed to have much broader minds. A single mother after divorcing my dad, she did a lot to instill that in us. And so on behalf of my mother, may she rest in peace. Thank you very much for this. Yes, for Mother's Day.
Okay, now I'd like to honor Russell Ben Ali, the husband of Maria Ricardo. A co-honoree here today has helped her in setting a good example for their children, Layla, Yulali, and Omar. Russell's grandfather from East Bengal in India, now independent as Bangladesh, had gone to sea as a sailor on ships. He decided to leave a ship when it arrived in a U.S. port. He stayed in the U.S., got married, and started a family. Russell, his grandson, decided that for higher education he would attend Baruch College, named after the very well-known Bernard Baruch of the City University of New York. Having received his bachelor's degree in business administration there, he decided to go into the field of journalism and landed a job at what was then known as the Newark Star-Ledger, a Newhouse publication. While with the Star-Ledger, one of the stories Russell covered, which made the front page, was about a physician from Cherry Hill, New Jersey, who had gone to the Darfur region of Sudan to learn what he could about the terrible killings, etc., of many hundreds of people there by men riding on camels, horses, etc., who not only decimated many villages of people belonging to African tribes, but then threw those murdered villagers down village wells, so that those wells would be poisoned and non-workable. This was declared by resolutions adopted by both the U.S. House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate to be outright genocide. While in the Darfur region, the MD from Cherry Hill gave crayons to a number of the surviving children living in makeshift camps in the Darfur region, asking them to do some drawings. Not surprisingly, many of these drawings depicted the brutal killings they had themselves witnessed and had just barely survived themselves. The MD tucked these drawings within a copy of the New York Times he had with him and was able to get them safely out of the Khartoum, Sudan's capital, airport, and on a flight with him back to New Jersey. These somehow got to the Star-Ledger, where Russell Ben Ali was asked by the editors to create a piece, the realism of which would be commensurate with the many outrages that had occurred in that part of Sudan. Soon appearing on the front page of the Star-Ledger was Russell's very effective article, accompanied by color reproductions of some of the children's incredibly disturbing drawings, with a dramatically readable article by Russell about the doctor, his trip to Sudan, and his experiences there. The Russell Ben Ali story, with more reproductions of the children's disturbing drawings, continued inside the first section of that day's Star-Ledger. It is no surprise that Russell, in his work in journalism over the years, won multiple awards for the stories he covered as a reporter and staff writer for numerous leading publications. Especially now, we understand how darkly important that series on lead-poisoned children was that Russell uncovered, and how worthy he was to receive that Arc of New Jersey Community Excellence Award. Russell's drive to make a positive difference in the world more recently led him to work on problems of adult illiteracy in the New Jersey population through his role as coordinator for recruitment and training for Literacy Volunteers of America, Essex and Passaic counties, a nonprofit organization. He brought his considerable talents to publicizing this problem and telling about what Literacy Volunteers of America was doing to provide opportunities, often based in public libraries, that continue to help these often capable people to no longer be illiterate, thus helping them to be employable, as well as to be more effective parents, encouraging their children to move ahead with their studies. Just as Maria assists First Friends, the local outfit that especially fights for the rights of immigrant detainees, through the Church and Society Committee of this very church, Russell also does very important and selfless work through this same organization. Russell is a volunteer with First Friends of New Jersey and New York's Visitors Program, where he provides weekly visits to an immigrant detained in a Hudson County jail. This commitment is often very demanding and emotionally draining at times, and it requires a totally service-oriented frame of mind. This Russell obviously possesses. For these reasons, the Center for Global Responsibility applauds the terrific effort and goodwill that Russell Ben Ali devotes to the above causes and more. We thank you, Russell. You are an inspiration to us all.
So thank you so much for your recognition from the Center for Responsibility. Like Maria, even more so, I was a little confused about why I'm worthy of such a kind of work. Yeah, I spent a couple of decades in journalism. And I think I spent it at a time when we felt the stories were important. We had to really delve into a story like the Doctors Without Borders, a physician who snuck the children's artwork out of Darfur. Which, by the way, nobody is here by himself. We're all connected globally to people. The idea for that story actually came from Blanche Foster from the Darfur Rehabilitation Project, Missouri. And then it blossomed out to other things, and it included her work. Some of the people here have done great work, including my wife, who I met sort of unofficially about 35 years ago. We've been married 33 years this month. But she and I actually grew up, at least for me, for the first 9 years, in the same Harlem housing project, where she lived just a couple buildings away. Her building had all the stores, so I was always there. Her next door neighbor was a classmate and a good friend of mine, whose home I was at often. But we don't recall meeting. We may have been in the same kindergarten class, still looking for the photos. But I sort of look at her as sort of a life companion, not just my wife, she's my partner. I was with her on the side encouraging her, and she was doing work for the health department. Shortly after we got married, and they were struggling. She had a doctor to test drug addicts and streetwalkers for sexually transmitted diseases so they could get them treatment. It was not an easy job. But I think she came home frustrated. She eventually moved on to the East Harlem HIV Care Network, which she started it by herself. And it blossomed into this network of community organizations where if somebody in East Harlem had HIV, they could just go to one place. It used to be that they had to go to this doctor for drugs, for this place for counseling, for this place for housing. Once she started that network, it was just a one-stop service organization where, more or less, she's giving me a more or less sign here, I may be overdoing it, where people could get a lot of services in one place. So she's truly a global citizen. She never forgets anyone. She's met people all over the world, and she's always in touch with them. We have for a long time supported a girl, no longer a girl in Uganda, through Change Life Uganda, and Maria recently worked in Uganda, nowhere near the school where this student was studying, but she, with the help of a camera, I went down there and gave a visit, and I got to see a picture of this lady that we help as a grown lady. Anyway, I think about all the time. Bob, I've learned a lot from you. A lot of the stuff that's on your website, we here today, we don't know, but he started as a very young man. He was, I think at age 13, you and your friend Henry Renato had to interview as a school project some important people in New York State, including Dr. Blodgett, who's the first big female engineer, scientist for General Electric. Andy did that. You interviewed the governor of New York State, Herbert Lehman, for which William College is now named. As a young man or a youth, he used to sit in the New York State Assembly balcony on Monday nights and listen to the debates on legislation. I think at the same age, Monday nights I was watching Bugs Bunny and practicing on my bass guitar. He used to hitchhike to high school until he revamped an old Model A Ford. He was at the corner of Pearl and State Streets in Albany as a kid or a young man, handing out Wendell Willkie for president buttons. He didn't win, but it was a nice try. He's truly a global citizen. Your work in Bangladesh and Ghana and with the Air Force and as a Fulbright scholar in Ghana is well known. So I consider myself something of a student of yours and definitely an admirer of my wife's. So if anything, I can accept the recognition. By association, I will. I don't think I've done anything to deserve it. But thank you very much for the recognition.
Yes. to bring him to church. He looked to be a very handsome guy, and the women were chasing him from one side of the street or city to the other. And when he graduated down there, he had a commission as a second lieutenant in the U.S. Army. And guess what? The photo was Barack Obama, the president there, at the commencement, and here's her nephew next to President Obama, who was very proud to be standing there with this new, shiny second lieutenant in the U.S. Army. We have not heard the last about him. And there's much more that could be said about Blanche. I remember, as many of us do in the church, when she was head of the Interfaith Hospitality Network to help homeless people. I remember once, Blanche was intrepid in that. I mean, wasn't sitting behind some desk or an easy chair or anything. I remember one night that she was going up to Bourbon County someplace because the people for that church had not been set up for this soon-to-arrive homeless family. And so I went there with her, and maybe at 2 in the morning, we're trying to get cots set up for them, and mattresses, and every other goddamn thing. But that was just, par for the course for Blanche. She would do that anywhere. When she was executive director, although she always says acting executive director, of the Darfur Rehabilitation Project that had been founded by Darfurian guys who had, in many cases, personally witnessed the brutality of the supposedly Arab guys working under the thug president of Sudan, who with their camels and horses would come charging into these villages of African tribe people. Didn't consider themselves Arabs. They spoke Arabic, all right. And they wrecked those communities, poisoned the wells by throwing dead bodies down, did every other goddamn thing. And so those folks, those guys, organized the Darfur Rehab Project. But the project really couldn't do much because it didn't have any vital force 24 hours a day behind it. Guess what? Blanche Foster became that force. And without recompense, we always wanted to get recompense, but we could just barely raise enough money to keep the lights on there and some heat in a setup in the Iron Palm part of Newark. And so with her car, with her trusty Hyundai Accent, but now, I guess with a Honda, but anyway, she would go all over the place. I mean, miles, I don't know, maybe 25,000 miles, just a little while. Going to speaking events about Darfur and Philadelphia and Washington and here and there. She would do it all. And so I think we should recognize Blanche Foster.
This is not for me today. This is for them. And the reason that it is so important for me to come is for everything that I ever did, whenever I asked for their help, they were there. Russell spoke about the article that he wrote in the Star Ledger for us. He also held a workshop teaching teenagers how to use media in order to let people know that genocide was occurring in the world, and letting themselves be prepared as adults not to allow that to be a part of their lifetime. As far as Maria is concerned, concerned, anybody who has gone down Route 22, you know full well you need an a mezuzah, a cross, Hail Marys, and anything you can to go down Route 22. And she grabbed the youth fellowship kids along with myself, and we went down to Route 22 to take them to a certain event. But what I liked about her so much, and I'm so eager to let you know about this, to share it, is IHN, Interfaith Hospitality Network, to a large degree was very, very active here in our church. And the one thing that Maria understands is that you can't help people who are less fortunate than yourself if you're not spending time with them. If you're not sitting down and talking with them and holding their hands. Yes, cooking meals are fine, and taking meals to other locations are fine. But to be able to give that time of yourself to others is something that she always was empathetic about. And when it came to my being with people that I knew I could work with no problem, this couple has really, really been the ones to step up to it. So I'm not coming with very much, but it's a peace plan. And who deserves a peace plan better than people who have worked for peace, not only globally, but here at home as well, because it's absolutely important. If we want to help those who are outside of our borders, we have to also help those who are within our borders. And I do thank you, and I hope you'll accept this from me with my gratitude, because you really do. Thank you so much for that wonderful talent. Oh my goodness. We don't have to wait for you to grow up in order to enjoy what you're doing. Your gift is now, and it's such a great thing for us to be able to appreciate. Really appreciate it.
One of the key people in getting the Center for Global Responsibility up and off the ground was Laima Ludwig. She's from Lithuania, where she got her law degree. Came over here with her husband Ramos, and then 2 children, now 2 more, 4 children. And she did her master's degree at the School of Diplomacy and International Relations, and became research director right from the outset of the Center for Global Responsibility, and was phenomenally important in the center getting going and trying to make some impact in the world. Recently, the business that she and her husband Ramos set up, now called Ramos Climate, which mostly does, these are bid contracts. You've got to prove that you were responsible and no criminal background and every other darn thing, and then you can do the job to get contracts for hospitals and schools and prisons and every other darn thing. She continued to be research director and give a lot of time to the center's work, but finally, with now a total of 4 children and being a principal of that business, which is, guess what, with the 2 of those involved in it, is growing like topsy, because everybody wants them to do whatever needs to be done. So she's now come to the point with the family and the business responsibilities that she really can't give further of her wonderful capabilities for the center. So I just, she wouldn't have been here today. We wanted her here, 4 o'clock because of other events that were taking place in the church. She had something else she just had to do, so she could not be here. But we'll certainly convey to her the commendation and thanks from everyone here for the phenomenal work she did, and we can give a little applause.
GR report and GR school.
Yes, okay, well, I think we can end with that.
Yes,
And then the reception. Yeah. Well, the center has 2 new projects, thanks to no small extent to the incredible capabilities of Linda Lubinsky. One of them is producing. Soon, the first issue will be out of a series to be known as GR Reports. The first issue is being worked on as we speak. And John Halleck, who is creating the article for the first issue, happens to be in Albany, New York, where he's working on environmental matters for the state of New York, and couldn't handily be here today. But Linda and I just had a long discussion with him by phone the other night, so in that sense he is here. And he had gone to, like Dale here, to the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences at Cornell. He was in the environmental aspect of that. He then did a master's at Syracuse University at the School of Environmental Sciences and Forestry, a land grant funded institution of some substantial nature for a long darn time on a national basis. So he got his master's there, and he's been with the state for quite a while. But he, some years ago, he was one of the, in fact, he was the key person in an article published in, you remember?
Nature. Nature.
Nature is the more recent one, Azalea publication.
Yes.
Yeah, a publication of one of the leading scientific publishers in the world. I think they're out of Switzerland. Quite an intensely researched article that he was really the lead person for with others on environmental concerns. And then 10 years later, they did another one with the same journal, updating that. And then there was an article in Nature, the leading British published journal, weekly, I guess, in that environmental et cetera field. He was involved in the team that produced, I guess, a whole issue of Nature.
So GR Report is hopefully an online publication.
Yeah, the GR Reports, there may be printed copies of it, there probably will be, but basically it'll be an online publication, which is sort of the going thing now. That makes it available everywhere in the world where people have computer access for internet, and of course it's then our job to get the word out of the world that, hey, you want to find this on the internet, otherwise it's dead in the water. It exists, but it doesn't really exist.
So any day now that the first issue will be available?
Yeah, we just talked to John the other night, and he's working on it as we speak. And
another project is the GR School.
Yeah, so that's the GR Reports series. And we're also developing, at the enthusiastic instigation of a junior in Livingston High School, Sharon Perlmutter. Guess where she thinks she may do her college work. I haven't run into somebody like that. I said, yeah, where do you think you will go to college? She said, well, probably Sciences Po in Paris. This is the leading freestanding political science program in the world. I think it's one of the Grande Écoles in the French system that is established by Napoleon and all that stuff. But anyway, she is very enthusiastically supportive of efforts by CGR to involve young people, age of 12, maybe age of 8, in globally responsible thinking and projects of all kinds. And so we are going, with her instigation and support, we are starting up this very summer a project called GR, Global Responsibility Schools. What will they be? They will involve students, probably initially junior high school and high school age, many of them from inner city circumstances, in which they will have an opportunity to work with knowledgeable people about many of the key issues of global responsibility. Environmental, stop this madness that's destroying the planet that we live on. Human rights, and of course, we always say, especially for women and girls, because they've been historically, on a global basis, the most dumbed down. Trying to have peaceful resolution of disputes rather than violent, attempted resolutions, and ending poverty in the world, and many more. We have some documents, I think, on the list of these various projects.
Dimensions of global responsibility.
Dimensions of global responsibility. Yeah. And anyway, this school will start right in this part of the world this summer. And so we thank Sharon Krumager for her, who can't be here. She's badly dealing with advanced placement exams and, this, that, and the other research papers and everything you do read about now at Livingston High School, so she couldn't be with us today. But we have her to thank for helping us start up GR schools. And let's give a little applause for her.
Thank you for all of you for attending today.
Yes, indeed.
There's a reception now.
If any of you haven't inscribed your name and address and so on, we have one of these nice little things we want you to please sign, so we will know how to reach you and everything. So please, Gina has one of those, and anyway, please sign our little book, and we thank very much the wonderful person here who did the terrific work with this little sign. Yeah.